Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
Yes! I feel like I've been waiting for this my entire life.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Jolly good fun. Jolly good.
Locking down the middle of the day.
America's favorite daytime fun show.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Two Wednesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Half the work week officially in the rearview mirror. Appreciate you hanging out with us on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Got some breaking news here from the folks over at LSU. LSU and Nichols tonight from Thibodeau will be postponed. It's just too cold to go play baseball. And I think that the cooler heads prevailed, to use a bad pun there, and that everybody realized it's not in the best interest to go down there and play baseball in the mid-30s, so LSU and Nichols will do it another time. So if you're down there on the bayou or headed down to Thibodeau to watch some baseball this evening, no more plans for that. We'll see what the rescheduled date is. Should be sometime soon. So LSU will take today and tomorrow off, and they'll get ready for a Friday 3-game set starting Friday with Omaha at the Box. We're talking basketball to start hour number 2 here. Matthew Brune of the Bengal Tiger, part of the team over there on 3. Good enough to give us some time each and every Wednesday. Matthew, how are you?
Hey, Hunt. I'm doing well. Like you said, just trying to stay warm.
Yeah, I was talking to Koki Riley from The Advocate earlier today. I was like, you got enough warm clothes to get on Thibodeau? And he was a little concerned about it. Won't have to worry about that. You don't have to worry about it in the PMAC either. And LSU has won a couple of games in a row. We haven't spoken since Saturday's kind of miracle that LSU pulled out up in Norman. What was your reaction watching that in real time?
Oh, it was incredible. I think, first of all, Cam Carter's excellent. I hope he gets on one of the all-conference teams. Obviously, I don't think it would be the first team, but second team potentially. I just think he's been so good this year. He's been one of my favorite players to cover in my time at LSU, on the court, off the court. I was really happy for him to come through in those moments for them. And that's one, they lost to Ole Miss in painful fashion in a collapse. And then you go on the road, you find a way to steal one from Oklahoma. So, sports are like that, right? You win one you shouldn't win, you lose one you shouldn't lose, and it comes out in the wash.
Do you think Cam Carter's got a good chance to make second team? I'm fully with you. He should, because he's carried this team every single game out. But there's a lot of really good players in this league. Yeah,
I believe it's 8 per team, if I'm not mistaken.
That sounds right.
I believe it's 8 per team, so it'd be 16. I agree there's so many players that could be on those lists, especially in this conference. It'll be tough. I think they'll probably need to win one or two more to get there, but he's just been the saving grace for this team. With the inconsistencies of everybody else, we could talk about them changing a bunch of different lineups, that McMahon experimenting and trying to find what works. Cam Carter's been the absolute pillar for this team to lean on game in, game out, even when nothing else is working. So defenses have been denying him. They've been trapping him, get the ball out of his hands and force others to beat him, and he's still been able to be effective. So I do want to give him his flowers this year for what he's done.
If you take away them running out the clock at the end of regulation last night, you're talking about 4 straight games with 9 turnovers for LSU after it was such a massive issue for really the 6 weeks of conference play and going back into December. What has changed by your eye that LSU has allowed LSU to take care of the basketball better?
Yeah, I think they've kind of taken some pressure off of the point guard situation. We've talked about it before. The point guard situation is not where it needs to be, whether it's Jordan Sears or whether it's Curtis Givens. They're just not playing. They're not at a high enough level to handle the pressure and to handle the reads that you have to make as a SEC point guard. I think they've done a good job taking some of that pressure off them and changing their offense a little bit to get into different sets and to work it in different ways to where it's not just as many ball screens and stuff. So that's helped. And also I think they've shot the ball better. I don't have the last 4 game splits in front of me, but especially Oklahoma and South Carolina, when you're making shots in that way, you're able to make easier passes, easier reads. Even against Ole Miss, they shot 8 of 24 from 3. So I think the willingness to shoot threes has spaced teams out and given them a little bit easier reads, and then they've changed their offense a little bit.
Corey Chess got the back spasms. He didn't start last night. Damian Collins got a shoulder issue. He's given you what he can, but they've played smaller because they've kind of had to with the injuries. What do you like about that lineup that's got 4 guards around one post?
Yeah, I think the question I had was, the front court was such a strength, and it was a strength last night in, the shutting down Colin Murray-Boyles to a degree and Nick Pringle. They had a lot of blocks and whatnot, but when you can go to that smaller lineup, especially if Jai Bailey's making threes, which I think over the last 5 or 6 games, he's like 7 of 13 from 3 or something. So he's making shots, and that gives you, like I said, the spacing that you need offensively to be effective. I wasn't sure, 2 weeks ago if this team, if you asked me how much this team would score in a given game, if they would break 67 points or something like that. Now they've scored 80 in back-to-back games. I think the shooting is a big part of that, and I think the versatility of Jai Bailey and the versatility that McMahon has given with these lineups has really helped them.
The freshmen statistically were pretty good last night. They didn't turn it over a lot. They made some shots. That's, of course, Curtis Givens, Victorious Miller, and Robert Miller. How have you seen those guys grow up from Christmas to now?
I think the biggest thing for me last night, and I asked McMahon about this after the game, I was really, really impressed with how they defended against South Carolina. I thought Victorious Miller especially was into the ball handlers, was really active. And then Rob Miller had 1 or 2 blocks. He's extremely tall and long. So you get the defensive side of ball going, and I think the game has just slowed down for them in such a big way. It's relying on freshmen in any sport, but, basketball in this conference especially is just deer in the headlights for the first half of the year. And now I think over the last 5-6 games, we've seen Robert Miller and Victorious and Curtis really slow the game down and start to play better on both ends.
All right, now they turn the page from this quote-unquote softer part of the SEC schedule to a 5-game gauntlet that's anything but. So do you give them any chance over the next 5 games to be competitive, to pull one off here or there? Have they played better by your estimation, or has it just been the schedule getting a little easier?
Yeah, I think they've played better for the most part. Even if we go back before this 6-game stretch, we can go back to the Alabama and Auburn games, which were promising. A&M game was promising. So it's really that Texas game and the Georgia games, which were the alarming ones. Everything else, I think, the past month has been pretty on par with what you would expect from talent and the competition and stuff. But like you said, Florida and Tennessee at home, the next 2. I know home court advantage is a big thing in college basketball, but that is a massive, massive task. And then you kind of go from there with Mississippi State, Kentucky, and A&M. It wouldn't shock me if they got one of these 5. I think it's possible, but I don't know what if I'm setting a line at 0.5, I don't know where I'd set the odds at.
What do you like about Florida? They've been really impressive, and this is Todd Golden's 3rd year.
I like a lot about Florida. They're really, really good. That Auburn game was outstanding. They basically blew out Auburn on the road. I know it was only a 9-point win technically, but they really controlled it. Walter Clayton's incredible. The shooting, the handling, he's an NBA prospect to me. And then you get to Alex Condon on the inside, who I think is a real problem. I haven't seen their injury report and who's all healthy for them recently, but Will Richard is another scorer for them. They just come at you in so many different ways. Another elite offense in the SEC. They play fast, and they are also really tall with Condon and some of those other guys. So I think it's a really tough matchup for LSU, and we'll see how it goes.
We'll see you in the PMAC on Saturday. Thanks, Matthew.
Yes, sir. Thanks, Hunt.
Matthew Brune, part of the Bengal Tiger team over there on 3. He's got your team coverage. They got you covered on recruiting as well. Great staff over there. Great team at the Bengal Tiger on 3, and they're a big help to us here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. As I mentioned at the top of the segment there, LSU and Nicholls have been postponed for this evening down in Thibodaux. Just too cold to go down there and play baseball, so they'll find another date. I had this next segment set aside to talk about LSU and Nicholls. Instead, there's some pretty sizable news out of the National Football Football League that does impact the New Orleans Saints. We'll talk about that coming up next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com is the website. Jonathan Carbo and his team, fantastic to work with here in Baton Rouge. If you're a business owner or you're risk management, you handle the insurance program for a business here locally, and you're just looking at your insurance costs and you're looking at the coverages and you're going, I'm just not sure this is sustainable. I understand that happens all the time. Have you considered an alternative insurance solution? Have you looked at a captive? Has your broker come to you and suggested the possibility of a captive? If you have no idea what I'm talking about, might be time to explore that. And Jonathan Carver and his team at the Highland Insurance Group are happy to do that. Now, you've got to be a company that has got risk management in place. You've got to be a company that spends a substantial amount on your insurance. You've got to qualify to get into a captive. But you've also got to have a broker that helps you along the way. And the Highland Insurance Group is happy to do that. Give them a call or check them out online, HighlandIG.com. They're right here in Baton Rouge. All your commercial insurance needs. They also do group and employee benefits as well. It's a one-stop shop for all of your insurance needs. Jonathan Carbo and his team at the Highland Insurance Group. You can find them online at HighlandIG.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
All right, we got 1 week of SEC baseball in the books. So clearly, I have now seen enough to have an opinion on every team in the Southeastern Conference. I'll give that to you in the next segment with our initial SEC baseball power rankings. The way I did it, to be quite candid with you, is I took the teams and I put them into 3 buckets. Teams I thought were really good, teams I was like, okay, we'll see, and teams I don't think are good. I started that way, and then I just kind of put some numbers next to them and gave a little note here and there. We'll do that in the next segment. We'll see where LSU shakes out in my first SEC baseball power rankings. The NFL informed the organizations in the league today that the 2025 salary cap is going to be roughly $277 to $281 million, somewhere essentially around $280 million for 2025. That is an increase of somewhere in the neighborhood of $24 million year over year. And it's also larger than general managers were allotting for the coming season. And that's great for everybody, right? That's great for the teams. They've got more flexibility. It's great for the players. They're going to be allowed to be paid a little bit more. Awesome across the board. And if you're looking at this and you're a New Orleans Saints fan, you're going, well, this is awesome. Now we got more cap room to use. And that's not wrong. That's absolutely not wrong. But when I saw that, here's immediately what came to my mind. Because we know now that the Saints have picked their head coach, you've got some variability as far as coordinators and your staff goes. And then you've absolutely got to get after this roster building. And it's got to start with the combine into the draft. The draft's got to be huge. You got to be smart in free agency, and you've got to begin to retool this roster that has aged out of its price range. And you understand the Saints are perpetually in a terrible situation when it comes to the salary cap and are constantly having to do all kinds of gymnastics to get under it while not necessarily spending a lot in the free agent market. And when you look at this and go, oh, well, you're getting a $25 million bump in the salary cap, like that's great for the Saints. And it is. But here's the way I assess it. I'll equate it to a swimming pool, okay? You got a team like Washington that's sitting there with $80 million of cap space. They're standing in the shallow end, essentially with all the freedom to move that they could possibly want. And the fact that this bump just kind of drains some more water out of the pool, maybe they can do high knees and can jump out of the pool with no help because there's less water in the pool. They're far from drowning. They got all the flexibility they could want. New Orleans is down in the deep end, strapped to an anchor, okay? You're just trying to get up for air when it comes to the salary cap. This lets a little water out of that pool, and you can get up for air a little bit more easily. But you're not out of the pool, okay? You're not out of trouble. you're still very much buried with, let's call it, based on what this salary cap situation will be in 2012, let's call it $35 million over the cap, okay? So that's not exactly suntanning up out of the pool completely. That's still very much in the pool. But you got a little bit of relief here. And when I see the relief, I don't immediately think to myself, oh, who can the Saints go sign to help the 2025 roster? I think, okay, less gymnastics have to be done to, in fact, come up for air. And the magic word that we always hear with New Orleans is restructure. Less restructures, okay? You're talking about a salary cap that will have increased $50 million over 2 years. The NFL is trying to help the Saints get out of the swimming pool. But it's got to be done the right way. So what I don't need the Saints to do is go ahead and restructure a bunch of these deals, Derek Carr's included, to get way under the salary cap and then go sign new players to expensive deals. What I need is for this pressure release that's been unexpected, as being reported by all these folks that cover the NFL, to allow the Saints to go, okay, we got a little bit more room than we thought. We don't need to restructure and kick the can a little bit further down the road and put more years on the deals and sprinkle money over here. No, you don't need to do that. You need to let these aging guys come off the books and realize that you're still a year away from really making moves. But as the cap continues to go up and the Saints roster continues to have contracts meet their finish line, you're getting close. Like, this is as close as the Saints have been to a reasonable salary cap situation in years. You can see the light at the end of the tunnel. And the league is helping you by bumping up that limit, that cap. But don't take advantage of that today. Just sit tight. And the next question that has to be answered is, do you have the confidence that the Saints will, in fact, do it this way? I'll tell you, I'm starting to really believe that things have changed. They have only made one move financially over the last 12 months that I have looked at and gone, no. Since they restructured Carr, that really added on another year that you were wedded to him. And that was in the Allen era where they were still thinking they could win and they're still being aggressive and doing everything they can do to make sure they're going to be competitive the next year. Since they did that, they haven't really stepped out of bounds. I would not have made the Kamara deal. I've made that clear. I don't think it's crippling to the franchise. He's still playing pretty well. His attitude's phenomenal. He's not the issue. So I still wouldn't have done it, but it's not crippling. That's the only sidestep they've made. They're not adding on big name free agents at big deals for big money in multiple years. They haven't done anything else with Derek Carr. They haven't made huge draft moves to ditch 3 picks and move up 2 rounds. They've been relatively in step with what most of us think they should be doing. Now, have they traded back in the draft? No. Have they cut Derek Carr? No. Did they kick Alvin Kamara to the curb? No. Are they doing things completely opposite that they've been doing? No. But at least they're not continuing down this path. And so you're trying to take this little shovel and get out and get out and get out and get out as much as you can. And the NFL is helping. And they're going to help again in 2026. And once some of these contracts come off the books, we'll see likely Taysom Hill coming, likely Derek Carr not on the books next year as far as the number that he's at right now. We'll see what the future holds with Cam Jordan. I think Tyrann Mathieu wants to play a couple more years. Ramchick's about to officially retired. It's starting to happen. And it's frustrating to an extent as a fan not to be able to accelerate things. It's just not the way it works. And you knew this day was coming for a decade when you were doing business the way that you were doing business. But the point that I'm trying to make here is it just doesn't appear to me that they're just doing business the way they've always done business. I think they're changing a little bit. I don't know how much of that is Mickey Loomis and Dennis Lauscha and Kai Harley. I don't know how much of that is going to be Kellen Moore. That's a little bit more than I'm privy to from the outside just commenting. But I've got the actual transactions that they're making. I've got the dollar figures that are attached to all these players and what the salary cap's going to be from the NFL. And if you just look at the last 12 months as a snapshot and you don't add the 3 years behind that, and you just look at what they've done in the immediate past, it feels like there's a move at foot. And I think that's a good thing. It's just not going to be quick. You haven't heard Mickey Loomis say this. You haven't heard Kellen Moore go on the record with this. That's not concrete. In terms of, we're rerouting. I've heard baseball teams say this. We've heard NBA teams say this. We've watched NFL teams do this. It feels like the Saints are in the middle of doing that. We'll know by the end of veteran free agency in the NFL draft this year if that's the case. If the Saints go out and restructure Carr and go sign a veteran wide receiver for more than they have money for, and then trade 3 of their draft picks to move up 14 spots in the second round, well, we'll know they're the same old Saints. But they haven't done that. So I'm going to try to sit back and give them some credit right now for shifting course. And the NFL is helping with a sizable bump in the salary cap that we could not have known was coming. That's good news. It's just going to take a little bit of time. As Saints news continues to happen in terms of position coaches, as it just continues to happen in terms of coordinators, Ross Jackson's got you covered at LouisianaSports.net. We certainly do as well here on 104.5 ESPN. Hunt on Saints, give you all your Saints content each and every day up on YouTube. You can also find that in podcast form wherever you find your sound. Just search Hunt on Saints all year round. We appreciate y'all for searching that out. Breaking news of the last 25 minutes, LSU and Nichols will not play their scheduled game this evening down the bayou in Thibodaux. Too chilly for baseball. So if you had plans to go to that or were looking forward to watching this evening, no baseball tonight. And I think it's the right move because I think that it's just not smart to go out there and play in mid-30s temperatures at this time in the calendar. So they'll do it another time between LSU and Nichols. It will not be tonight. We got to take a time out. When we come back, we will talk SEC baseball power rankings. Where are the Tigers? That's next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge, genesisofbatonrouge.com. Every Genesis of Baton Rouge comes with a 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty. 10 years, 100,000 miles. Just not going to beat that in the industry. How about 3 years of complimentary maintenance? 3 years of complimentary maintenance. I said this the other day. My kid's 3 years. I can promise you that's a long time. Feels like a long time since he showed up. 3 years of complimentary maintenance. What a deal from the folks at Genesis Baton Rouge. And it's complimentary and it's valet. So they'll come to you. They'll pick up your vehicle. They'll take it to the shop. They'll get your work done. They'll bring it back to you. You don't lift a finger. It's the convenience of being a Genesis driver. If you have not gotten behind the wheel of a Genesis, not familiar with the line of vehicles at Genesis, that's not surprising. They haven't been around as long as a lot of the luxury car brands. But they're here now. They're on airline at PQ. Get on by and see them. Chat with one of their brand ambassadors. Tell them the Hunt Palmer Show sent you over there. And see the difference for yourself. It's Genesis of Baton Rouge. You can find them online at genesisofbatonrouge.com. genesisofbatonrouge.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
All right, 30 minutes to go here on a Wednesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Officially working towards the weekend. Have that work week in the rear view mirror. Appreciate you hanging out with us here on 104.5 ESPN. Baton Rouge. Beck, you're unhappy with me. You brought that to my attention.
Yeah.
We did power rankings for football from the first week of September the way through Christmas.
Indeed.
And baseball started up, and we're doing power rankings, and I don't see an issue with that.
Yeah, well, the issue is, Hunt, we never did a single power ranking for SEC men's basketball, which is pretty shocking considering you are a pretty big basketball guy.
I love basketball. I do not like ranking LSU 15th or 16th.
I understand
didn't really
that.
want to go through the exercise.
I get it, but at the same time, still an important.
Do
important
you
thing.
think the people want to hear about LSU's 15th or 16th ranked SEC basketball team?
I mean, I think the real problem is that people want to hear where you will be ranking the Vanderbilt Commodores because they have been on an absolute tear in all sports.
All sports, he says.
Yes, all sports.
Would you call their football season an absolute tear?
I would call it a very, very successful season compared to what they have normally put on the field in the last 5 years.
I think they stink.
Okay. Fair enough.
They didn't stink. They were fine. They weren't very good, but they were scrappy, and they turned into a pumpkin and didn't really win many games late. But I didn't really feel like doing basketball power rankings. I feel like doing baseball power rankings.
Of course.
So let's do them now.
Hunt's SEC Power Rankings.
Texas A&M! I do have more questions about A&M than most. I think Ryan Prager's good. I don't think he's dominant. He's their ace. Second-round pick. I don't think Justin Lampkin's great. He's kind of their number 2. They got guys that can hit. Laviolette's really good. Grahovec's really good. Shot's really good. I mean, they got a lot of guys that can swing the bat. So I'm going to go with A&M number 1. We'll see how long they stick there, but I've got to give them the benefit of the doubt right now.
The Tennessee Volunteers.
Tennessee's got a lot of talent. Their Friday night guy right now is Liam Doyle, who was at Ole Miss last year, and his numbers weren't very good, but he's got big stuff. So he was really good on Friday. Dean Curley and Dalton Bargo are kind of the new guys to take over from Christian Moore and Blake Burke. I think they're uber talented. I just think they've got a lot of mojo and a lot of moxie on Rocky Top. I'm not a big Tony Vitello fan in terms of the dude, but his teams are good, so we'll go ahead and leave them at number 2.
The LSU Tigers.
I got LSU at 3 here. There's a lot of potential, but a lot of it right now is just depth that I got to wait and see if it's high-end stuff. And so I feel good about LSU's chances, feel good about the team. I think they're in the top quarter of the SEC. I'm not willing to put them right there at the top just yet.
The Florida Gators.
I feel like some folks are a little down on Florida. Liam Peterson does have really good stuff. He was one of the only 3 true freshmen in the SEC. It was a regular weekend starter last year. He's kind of blossomed into a dude now. He's going to front their rotation. Ty Evans has been a thorn in LSU's side for 2 years. Colby Shelton is a good left-handed hitter with some power. The transfer from Alabama 2 years ago. Luke Heyman is still there as a catcher. They've got a lot of talent. Kevin O'Sullivan is always in Omaha. They were terrible last year and they were in Omaha, so I'll go ahead and put them at number 4.
The Arkansas Razorbacks.
The names that you need to know for Arkansas are Gabe Gackle and Zach Root. That's their 1-2 punch. Arkansas has always got dudes on the mound. Gabe Gackle might be the best pitcher in the SEC. He was really good on Friday. Zach Root is a transfer from ECU that I think LSU really wanted. Ended up in Fayetteville, so that's a good 1-2 punch for them. Wahiba Aloy is a really good hitter. At shortstop, looks like he's going to take a stride from where he was last year. Arkansas's bats are what's going to be the issue, and they weren't great in a freezing cold Baum Stadium over the past weekend. It may take them a while to warm up, but they're going to pitch it so good that they're always going to be good. That's the top 5 in the league, and those are the 5 that I put into a group of good teams that I really believe in right now. I'll go down a tier for the next group.
The Mississippi State Bulldogs.
I got State here at 6. They might not be this good. Hunter Hines is hot and cold, but he can be one of the best power hitters in the SEC when he's going. I thought they looked pretty good on the mound over the weekend. We'll see. I'm not sold completely on this, but again, this is a group that's to be determined that I could really jumble up in the middle of the conference, so I got State at 6.
The Georgia Bulldogs.
No Charlie Condon. He was pretty good last year for Wes Johnson, but Wes Johnson went out in the transfer portal and said, we need pitchers, and he got a bunch of dudes that throw really hard. So Georgia, who could not pitch at all last year, should be able to pitch it this year. I'm kind of banking on a lot of transfers here, but I think Georgia's pretty good. I got them at 7.
The Texas Longhorns.
Texas comes in at number 8. This is the opposite. They're going to hit like crazy. Jim Schlossnagle is a really good pitching coach. He doesn't necessarily have the talent that he would like. They got a big start and a big win over Ole Miss on Saturday in that tournament in Globe Life, but they're going to have to bring a pitching staff along a little bit. I trust Schlossnagle to do that. Max Wiener's a good pitching coach as well, but they got offense for days. I think the Horns are going to hit. I got them in the middle of the pack at 8.
The Vanderbilt Commodores.
J.D. Thompson, the new ace at Vanderbilt. They won 2 out of 3 over the weekend. Incidentally, lost to Nebraska, who LSU will see next weekend. Vanderbilt's not what they were in Corbin's prime. They don't have that kind of talent level. I think NIL has caught up to them there, where they had some real scholarship advantages. Corbin's still a good coach. They're still going to have arms. They're going to have some guys that can hit as well. I'll take Vanderbilt at 9.
The Alabama Crimson Tide.
They may have the best player in the conference. If you don't know who Justin LeBron is, you should. He's a sophomore shortstop who could be the first pick in next year's draft. He's really, really talented. Outside of that, I'm not sure. They could be a lot worse, but LeBron's awesome, so I'll put them at number 10 here. And now we'll get to the group of teams that I don't expect to be very good. We'll see how this goes.
The Auburn Tigers.
Look, they're going to hit a little bit. Ike Irish and Cooper McMurray are really good hitters, but I don't trust their SEC cast-offs in the weekend rotation. Cade Fisher, left-hander, transfer from Florida, did not have a good year last year. Sam Dutton, we know very well, starting on Saturdays. I don't think he's a Saturday starter in the SEC. I trust Bush Thompson. He's a good coach. They weren't very good last year. I just don't know if they're going to be very good this year either.
The Ole Miss Rebels.
Ole Miss at number 12. If Hunter Elliott's really good, that makes them better, but I'm a little concerned when you got a weekend rotation of 3 seniors. That's Hunter Elliott, Mason Nichols, and Riley Maddox. That means they haven't moved on to pro baseball. They're not immense talents. Luke Hill had a really good weekend. He's a Baton Rouge guy, going to play second base for him. They got a true freshman shortstop they think is going to be really good, but their best 2 players from last year played for Tennessee, and their pitching staff wasn't good enough to get drafted, so I don't know that I love Ole Miss's team.
The Oklahoma Sooners.
Oklahoma's pitching staff is talented. The Witherspoon brothers you'll hear a lot about. They're talented dudes. And then Cam Johnson. I don't know if they're going to hit, and this feels like it's probably going to be a rude awakening for them, like it was when they went 2-6 in football, like it was when I think they're going to go 4-14 in basketball. I don't think they're going to be good in baseball either. Their pitching's going to have to carry them. We'll see if it does.
The Kentucky Wildcats.
I didn't trust Kentucky last year. They got to Omaha. They lost a ton of talent off that team. They don't have hard throwers. They don't have a lot of pop in their lineup. I just don't trust a team that doesn't have elite talent, and Kentucky doesn't.
The South Carolina Gamecocks.
I don't think Paul Maneri's got elite talent either. You've got Ethan Petrie, who's good. His Friday night starter may miss a month, may miss more than that. It's just not a pitching staff that's loaded with dudes. It's not an offense that's going to be great. Joe Healy covers this conference as close as anybody. You heard him last week say the bottom could fall out of this team if there is a bottom to fall out of anybody's team. So I don't think South Carolina's very good. Coach has got a tall order on his hands there. They're just way behind in the NIL space when it comes to baseball. You can't fix that mid-season. We'll see what South Carolina is, but I've got them at 15.
The Missouri Tigers.
Missouri's bad. Surprise, surprise. They shouldn't even be in the league. They don't fit in any sport in any way, and they're terrible at baseball. They lost 10-0 to Penn State on opening day. They lost 9-7 to Stetson. They're just bad. They don't have good pitchers. They don't have good hitters. LSU's going to play them in the season opening SEC slate. That was just really poorly said. First SEC series, LSU's playing Missouri. They'll have to get off to a really good start, and I think they will because I don't think Missouri is good at all. So that's a look at my SEC power rankings. We'll do them one more time for you. A&M 1, Tennessee 2, LSU 3. Got Florida at 4 and Arkansas at 5. That's the group I think is the best. The middle of the pack, shake them up whichever way. Mississippi State at 6, Georgia at 7. Texas at 8, Vanderbilt at 9, and Bama at 10. And then the bottom of the league, I don't trust a lot. That's Auburn at 11, Ole Miss at 12, Oklahoma at 13, Kentucky at 14, South Carolina at 15, and Missouri at 16. A lot of that may be influenced on brands, but I do have some feel for some of the returning personnel for some of these teams. I'm hopeful. If LSU is the 3rd best team in the SEC, we won't have anything to worry about from now until Omaha, Nebraska. And that's kind of the main point of this exercise is where does LSU stack up? I think the SEC probably gets 6 hosts, 7 hosts. And then you're talking about probably 4 national seeds. You're in the top 4. You're right where you need to be. So I got LSU at 3. That'd be just fine if they could finish there. If you're just jumping in the car and missed the news of the day, LSU and Nichols postponed for this evening. The release that LSU sent out did suggest they will have a rescheduled date later today. So if we find that out in the next 18 minutes, we'll let you know about it. If we find it out in the next 3 hours and 18 minutes, Matt will let you know about it. But one way or another, we got you covered here at 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. We'll step aside for one more timeout. When we come back, we'll close out a Wednesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Audio Video Security Solutions, AVSSLA.com. I actually got an email in the middle of the show from Scott, who emailed in and said, hey, who's that company you got that does television installation, Wi-Fi systems, cameras? You got the name and number? I actually do. I've got all that right here for you. It's Audio Video Security Solutions, and it's Mitchell Fisher. His number I give you every single day. It's 225-439-7920. Again, 225-439-7920. Scott mentioned him. It's television installation. It's surround sound and home entertainment, from as simple as the old TV hang-up to voice automated, where he can say, let's watch a movie, and the drapes will come down and the TV will come on and surround sound will perk up and the lights will dim, and they can do all that for you as well. They can handle your security systems as they've done in the Palmer House. It's a fantastic local company, and what I can promise you with AVSS is you're going to get incredible customer service after the installation. That's been our experience for a year now in the Palmer House, and it will be yours as well if you contact Mitchell Fisher and his team. Check him out on Instagram, AVSS_BR. Again, that's AVSS_BR. You can see phenomenal pictures and videos of their great work. You can always check them out online, AVSSLA.com. That's Audio Video Security Solutions. Audio Video Security Solutions.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
.104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge, and Citizens Bank and Trust want to help cover your car payments. It's a $5,000 grand prize with a bonus chance to win free car washes from Benny's Car Wash for 6 months. We're also letting you earn extra entries by subscribing to our LouisianaSports.net daily newsletter. To sign up, visit 1045ESPN.com.
How do you think the crowd would have been in Thibodeau tonight if they had kept the game on as planned?
I'm going to guess that I don't know, you know the name of the ballpark there?
Not
in Thibodeau?
a clue.
I don't know the name of it, but I'm guessing that the capacity is probably maybe 1,000, 2,000 people. So probably about 100, 200 people probably there.
No, I disagree. I think they would have filled it to start the game. At
What do you
6:30,
think?
at 6:30, I think it would have been full because you got a lot of folks from the home and Thibodeau
that's
area
true.
that would like to see LSU in person. Some Nichols fans that wouldn't want to miss that chance. I think in the fourth, it would have been dwindling, but I think they would have filled it early. But they made the right call here. There's just no need to force this, and I don't know who made the call, if both coaches were comfortable with it or if LSU stepped in. But you can't jeopardize health in these kind of situations. I know it's fun to go, tough it out, it'll be fine. But if the wind's blowing 20 miles an hour and it's 37 degrees, that's just not fit for baseball activity. Got a bunch of guys out there with bare hands that don't have gloves on. You got pitchers that got ligaments that are. It's just not a smart way to go about things. So I think the right call to shut that thing down, and we'll get an idea of when the reschedule is here in the coming hours. But we got to close down the show, and we do it one way every day. That is, of course, take it or leave it.
Take it or leave it.
Take it or leave it.
Today's hottest stories in sports, news, and sometimes even Hunt's life. The question is, will he take them or leave them?
Just take it.
Alrighty, first one here. NHL hockey analyst Kevin Weeks is reporting that the NHL are considering a hockey team expansion in New Orleans. Take it or leave it.
I'm going to leave that.
Leave it alone.
It just doesn't feel like that's going to work. New Orleans can't really keep a basketball franchise afloat.
They could if they actually. I mean, whenever the Pelicans are good, they are.
But they're a small market, so they don't get good. That's the point. And so I agree. It's not like no one ever goes, but it's a struggle for New Orleans to make that happen. They can handle football. It's 8 games a year. You talk about buying tickets for 40 games a year. That's completely different, and that's in the mold you're talking about with hockey. Plus, nobody down here knows any of the rules to hockey. At least we had basketball figured out when the team came here.
Yeah, but the rules with hockey doesn't matter. I mean, the people go to hockey games because they want to see fights and they want to see it's exciting.
That's why you go to minor league hockey, or you go when you're visiting a big city. When you have a team that you're invested in, you'd like to know why they got a penalty, or how long that guy's going to be off the ice, or why your team is playing with one less guy out there, or why it's offsides. Nobody. I don't know the rules of hockey. I work sports for a living. I don't know the rules. So it just doesn't. It's just not feasible. I'm not suggesting it's a bad thing for the city. I think it'd be a good thing for the city if they try it. But I'm telling you, for the league, it's not going to work.
All right, next one here. This is from Ross Dellinger. SEC ADs and coaches discussed the potential to move to 9 conference games both Monday and Tuesday. Commissioner Greg Sankey says they have not made a decision, but it does sound like several people in the room at first against 9 games are rethinking their position. 9 conference games, take it or leave it.
I mean, I'll take it. It sounds great. It's just, I don't know how you're going to pass that when we just saw the committee say, we don't care who you play, we only care what your record is. Because we know that Indiana didn't play anybody, but they went 11-1, so they're in. And so why would you add, you have to add, I guess if you're talking about another game for 16 teams, you're adding 8 losses to the conference. Automatically adding 8 losses. So I just don't see how that's good business from the SEC's perspective. The only way it works is if you have assurances from your television partner that, oh, you're putting an extra conference game and you're in the process taking away one of those awful non-conference games that draws no ratings. Okay, here's an extra $60 million. Here's an extra $105 million that you can divvy out. You do that, well, I think you start to make a little bit more sense, and maybe everyone jumps in line. But most people are about lining their own pockets or making sure that they're set up for success. And when you add 8 losses to your conference in a sport that is determined, we don't care who you beat, we only care that you lost, that doesn't make a lot of sense in advancing teams into the postseason and trying to compete for championships, which is ultimately what the SEC is about. Now, money is important, but if you move to 9 games in 2026, you're not going to get a big chunk of change from ESPN to reflect that. Your TV contract's set in stone. It's contractually done. So I just don't see, somebody's going to have to explain to me not why it would be better. I know why it would be better. Somebody's going to have to explain to me why the conference would vote to do it individually, because you're adding a bunch of losses.
Yeah, it's understandable why the teams. I mean, yeah, because like, but the thing is though, is like, will the committee? Because we've seen them over the years change the way that they value certain, especially because the committee changes, the people who are on the committee change. So we sometimes see different things valued. Like we've seen, like, top 10 wins or strength of schedule, all that stuff. Like the different statistics, sometimes some matter more than others. So we don't know for sure that the committee the next year or the year after that are going to be the same, are going to rule the same way they did last year.
But we know for sure that if you put another game on the schedule for everyone, you're guaranteeing 8 losses. Yeah. We know that for sure.
That's true.
And that's bad.
Yeah. All right, last one here. The Auburn Tigers in basketball. They stayed at number 1 in the top 25 when the rankings came out on Monday for the 6th straight week. They'll take on John Calipari and the Razorbacks tonight in Neville Arena. The Tigers are a Final Four favorite. Take it or leave it.
I'll take it. The committee chair said on Saturday that they have a 2-game cushion on the number 1 overall seed, meaning they're going to be the number 1 overall seed. They could lose 2 before now and then because most teams lose tournament week. But they're really good. They play great defense. They get efficient shots. They make them. They're long. They're athletic. The question is Janai Brune going to re-aggravate that ankle?
Yeah.
And is he going to be full ready to go for the NCAA tournament? If I was Bruce Pearl, I would prioritize that over winning against Arkansas or whoever else they got on the schedule. I don't know how they'll handle it. I would sit him for a week, but that's just me. We'll see what Bruce Pearl decides to do. He's a little bit better basketball coach than me, just fractionally.
Probably just a little bit, yeah.
Yeah. That's it for us here on a Wednesday edition. Taylor's going to be in the host chair tomorrow. I am out, but I will be back on Friday. Very much looking forward to that. If you missed any of our show today, catch it on demand. Matt's about to drive you home on After Further Review. Y'all join Taylor tomorrow talking some SEC baseball and the Saints. I'm back Friday for another edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.